Hi there, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Today I am so excited because I'm working out of my home, and I also am going to be able to show you how you can make really great high quality organic calcium out of eggshells. Now, for those of you that have been following my channel for some time already know that I have chickens, and therefore I have good quality chicken eggs, or in this case, shells. So with that said, you don't have to have organic eggshells to do this. You don't even have to consume eggs to do this. If you can get good, high quality organic eggs from your neighbors, your friends, or somewhere else, then you're set to go. But I would only recommend high quality eggs if you're going to consume the calcium that you're going to be creating. However, that doesn't mean that you can't create the calcium and use it in another way, because you can. You can use it in your compost, you can sprinkle it around plants because it makes a great snail bait, and you can also use it in vegetable gardens. That doesn't mean that they are entirely bad, but for yourself, for you to consume, I would only recommend for you to do organic and good quality eggshells. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you everything that I'm going to be using, but I'm going to do a disclaimer here and let you know that I am not affiliated with any of the companies of the products that I'm going to be using here or items, and I am not getting any revenue from anything. So if I mention something or a company, it's just because I'm sharing, and that's it. So with that said, let me just dive right in here. So what I'm going to be using and what you can use is either a coffee grinder, a tea grinder, a food processor, even a blender of any sorts will work, and even a rolling pin will work. Whatever you have in your kitchen will work as long as you can get it down to a really fine consistency, especially if you're going to be consuming this calcium. So that's what I would recommend. I am using a coffee grinder. However, my preference is using a pedal and mortar. And the reason for that is because I find that this gets it a lot finer than the coffee grinder does. Now, maybe this just isn't of the best quality. I don't know. But whatever the case is, I find that this works better. Plus, I just love my mortar and pestle. This I got at, I think, probably Kitchen Caboodle for $24, but you can find it probably in Amazon or even probably in any secondhand store. But if you buy it at a secondhand store, I would highly recommend that it is very smooth inside and still usable and not pitted, because then you don't really have a great grinder. But nevertheless, this is a great item to have. It comes in handy for more than just crushing eggs. It is also really great for herbs and teas and just a whole lot of other things. But this isn't about that. This is about eggshells. The other thing you're going to need is just a small bowl to sift your grinds in. Now, the other thing that I recommend is using a mason jar. Any size will work. It just depends on how much you're grinding and how large of a jar that you're going to need. I use these really small ones because I don't consume a lot of eggs, and this is enough for probably a month or more. So that being said, I use these. Plus, we all know that mason jars have a really good seal in them, and so I like them because the moisture is less likely to get in the mason jar. The other thing you want to do, and I already have some that I have previously ground, I usually keep it in a space that's cool and in a darker area. I also keep it on top of my collagen protein over here because it's next to my Vitamix. And so when I make my smoothies, I just throw in a quarter of a teaspoon in there, and then I have all the additional minerals that I need for that day. Now, I'm not going to give you a rundown about everything about calcium and minerals, but I will share with you guys that if you don't already know, that eggshells contain 95% calcium carbide, and the other 5% are nutrients that are great nutrients to also have, and that is within the membrane. So with that being said, once I've cracked the egg and put it aside for making my breakfast, then I immediately take my eggshells under warm water and I clean out any egg or yolk, any egg white or yolk residues off of it. And again, leaving the membrane. Do not remove the membrane because, again, that is another 5% of other nutrients. It's really great to have along with your calcium. So it's very beneficial. Now, once you have rinsed all the eggshells and everything is clean, then you want to boil this with hot water on your stove for about 10 minutes. Now, the reason for boiling eggs is because you want to get rid of any lingering pathogens that are still on the eggshell, any kind of salmonella that possibly could be on there, or any kind of other bacteria. So that's what you want to do. So let me show you how this process is done. So then the next step you're going to do is you're just going to pour your eggshells into the water. Try to keep them separate. And you don't need a lot of eggshells to do this, because a little goes a long ways. I usually will do about a dozen eggs, but if you don't do a dozen, that's okay. Once they are boiled, you're going to let it cool down just a little bit, and then you're going to bring it to the sink, drain out all the water, let them cool down a little bit to where you can touch them. At that point, you are going to be grabbing either a metal tray or a glass tray. Whichever you choose to use, as long as it can go in the oven, then you can use whatever you want. But you basically just want to place them on your tray and make sure they're well separated. And then you're going to put them on top of your counter and leave them there. I usually put them way over here. I take some paper towel and I cover them. Now you don't have to do that part. I do that because I have a cat, and if that cat happens to jump up there, then I know that my eggs are still going to be sanitized. Now, most of the time you want to leave them overnight for about 24 hours. However, if you leave them less than 24 hours, it doesn't matter, because the basis is that you just want to let them sit out so that they can dry. Now you can probably speed the process up by patting them dry a little bit, but for the most part, just leave them out there. Then in the morning, you just want to place them in your oven at 200 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes. I usually do 200 degrees Fahrenheit at 20 minutes. Now the reason for that is because you're drawing out any additional moisture out of the eggshells, and you're also cooking down all the membrane. And they are nice and, let me just show you. Now I only have a few because this is just for the sake of showing you and demonstrating this. But once you get them out of the oven, they're easy to crunch at that point. And you can either do one or two things. If you're not ready to do this process and you just want to collect your eggshells, then you can collect them in a mason jar such as this and just keep collecting them and use them according to however much calcium you want to make for that day or that month, whichever the case is. But if you want to crunch them, add them to your grinder, and grind. And if you don't hear any real loud eggshells pounding around in there, then you know it's pretty grounded. But again, I don't find that this grinds it down very far. As you can see, it's still pretty gritty. So, and I don't know how well you can see that, but let me do that again. Let's see if I can do that. That's pretty gritty right there. But it's okay, because this, if you're doing unorganic eggs, this is still good for your compost, your garden, or like I said, around plants for use of snail bait. Or you can actually get a mortar and pestle, pour it in there, and then grind it even further down. And that's why I like this, because they both kind of work really well together. And while you're doing this, you also get your workout for the day. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. No pun intended. I did this the other day and my back hurt because I had worked really my muscles, where I hadn't worked those muscles in a while. I also would recommend for you to put some paper towels down when you do this, because otherwise you'll get your counter all full of powder. But see how much better that is when you do it with the pestle? It's much, much better. It's much more powdery, and this is the consistency, if not better, that you want to consume. Now, one thing that I would really recommend is for you guys not to consume anything that's very gritty. And the reason for that is because it's not only really bad for your esophagus, it can ruin your esophagus, but if you're having digestive issues, it's not a good thing to even try to consume anything that's very gritty. That's why you want something that's very powdery and fine. So once that is done, what I usually do, you can use a sifter such as this. However, this one still has quite a large amount of holes in here. So I wouldn't really recommend this, because a lot of grit is still going to go through that. This one here you can get, this one here is extremely fine. However, you can get one that's kind of not in between, but a little bit bigger than this. But this works really well. And this is where having a larger bowl comes into place, because then you can sift this out and even get it a lot finer. And I will show you how much grain is still left even doing it through this. Now, it doesn't have to be a perfect science. This is pretty small, so it probably would be just fine. However, because I do happen to have digestive issues, and that is a big reason why I became a vegan, even though I do crush eggs and I do consume the eggshells. I don't think the eggshells are really considered an animal. However, I don't do it for the sake of not eating animal. It's just mainly because it was a health choice that I made due to the fact that I was having digestive issues rather. And so I just chose to go plant-based and more vegan. And now kind of have had to add at least some type of omega, so I chose to do at least like tuna or salmon to my diet once in a while. So here's the consistency of both of these. Let me bring the camera way down. So let's see if I can get this so that you can really see the difference here. Do you see how gritty this still is in comparison to this? This is extremely, extremely fine. And that's what I like to consume, and not so much this one. Now, it's possible that I'm just being a little picky, but you know what? This is what's going to work best for my system, so I don't mind putting in that extra additional work. Now, this doesn't go to waste. You can either regrind that, and it will still grind down more. I will show you. Now that still got it a lot further down. Now this is pretty passable as well. However, like I said, I like this process a lot better. So I will sift that. Let's see if I got a good grip here. And what doesn't sift through, this is really great to giving a little pinch to your orchids once a month. So you can place this in a separate little mason jar. Just make sure that you label them properly and you store them separately. So there's still quite a few here that I'm going to go ahead and grind, but I'm going to do that off camera. I just basically wanted to show you the process and what you can do for yourself. And so whatever other shells you don't use, again, you just can crush them into a jar and collect them. Grind this in a coffee grinder, a blender, or whatever, and still have multiple uses for it if you don't want to consume it. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope that you really do try making your own calcium. And more importantly, you guys, get up, get out, get active, make yourself some organic calcium, and stay healthy. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Love you, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye-bye for now.